Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto Anime episode review. This one's going to be for episode 45, which is called Memories from the Day of Snow. And while I didn't think this was one of the best episodes of Boruto, I still thought it was fairly solid, because I do overall like what they're doing here, even if I think maybe this episode pointed us in a direction where maybe they're taking some of the complexities out of the situation and making it a little bit more kind of black and white, good and evil, and moving away from what was a very, very complicated issue. But because they didn't fully commit to any specific reveals with Gecko, there's still some hope that they might do something different. So the core of this episode basically is that the Byakuya gang haven't been doing anything in the village for the past while, but it seems like they're sowing the seeds within the village of this inequality between the people who have lots of money and the people who don't, and so protests are starting, and it's beginning to become a very kind of entrenched thing in the village that the basically Byakuya gang's ideology is spreading, and obviously it's this weird dynamic of they're supporting thieves basically, but they're noble thieves, and that's kind of what we've been about up to now. We then get Ryogi's backstory, which, you know, similar to certain backstories we've seen before, but I like what they did with it in that it did help to characterize Ryogi, in that here's someone who looked up to his father a lot because his father helped people, he was a shinobi, and one day he comes back and he's killed, and apparently, you know, he's saved from this massacre by his father's best friend, Gecko, and that's obviously where the suspicion comes in. And because Gecko immediately jumps into basically kind of to some degree, you know, brainwashing, but very much leading him down this path of, you should join us because look what we're doing good things, your father agreed with this, join the Byakuya gang because of what we're doing. Just those little kind of nudges of like, your father would agree with this, and in a way, how can Ryogi say no to this? Here's the only person who's kind of willing to look after him, and the kind of one thing he's kind of been asked for in return is to join this gang because he has ice style. You know, kind of why not? So he's sort of forced into this, but you can tell by the conversation later on with Shikadai that this is a kind of entrenched thing that he actually believes in, and that's what's going to make the what I assume is going to be an important reveal later on about Gecko all the more meaningful. And what I think it's going to be, I think some people have predicted this already, and, you know, I can definitely see the point for like, oh, do they really want to do that, in that it just kind of makes things less complicated, and that is that Ryogi's father disagreed with the Byakuya gang, which Gecko was running primarily, and he actually never agreed with it. And in response to this, Gecko basically had, you know, Ryogi's parents killed, potentially because he realized that Ryogi was an ice style user and could be of use to the gang going forward. That's I think the one missing kind of point here of like, okay, you have someone to train up, but how did you know that he had high potential? Why not just get rid of him if he disagrees? That's the only question I think that's left, but I think it's fairly clear that he's the one, Gecko's the one invested in the Byakuya gang, and just from the little we get, Ryogi's father is definitely presented as being just a kind of good person. So I think, like a lot of our other good characters in the show, they've shown the kind of idea of like, I get what you're doing with the Byakuya gang, but it is wrong at a base level, and I assume that's what Ryogi's father's reaction was. The speculation seems to be that Gecko's ninja powers may relate to genjutsu and his ability to maybe temporarily control people through maybe a tattoo mark, which I think we saw in the previous episode, and he seems to have in his hand here. So just because the guy who killed Ryogi's parents looked like he was kind of possessed under control, because he didn't really, like, he didn't say anything, he was just there, and he kind of looked like a zombie. And for the most part, they don't tend to do that unless they're kind of showing that a character is under control of someone else. So I think he used that as a way to kind of get Yogi on his side. And now it's all going to be about, when the truth comes out, is Ryogi going to believe in this or not? And I think the important thing that they need to do, if they go in that road, is to not make Gecko potentially being evil, having done this, and maybe taking a big cut of the stuff that they steal, or whatever way they go about it. That they don't have like a true bad seed within the Byakuya gang. Rune, I think the valid point that the entire arc up to now has been bringing up of, yeah, there is a big gap between the rich and the poor. What's going to be done to fix that? Because earlier on in the episode, Naruto, Shikamaru, and Sai kind of talk about this, and Naruto is taking it very seriously. But is he going to make a move to help, like, the villages that the Byakuya gang is helping? And what exact way are we going to go about doing that? Is it going to be through better technology, ninja technology, to help with to have a more technologically advanced water supply that won't break down? Or is it just going to be that the Leaf Village is going to make an effort to provide more, I suppose, relief aid to the less advantaged or whatever? I think that has to be something that does come out of this in the end. Just a net kind of, the village is making some changes in response to what the Byakuya gang have done, and not just basically ruin anything they sort of started just by having their leader kind of turn out to be a villain, and the group coming across as noble thieves but actually being a little bit more evil than they actually were in the end. As for, I suppose, the big scene of the episode, with regards to what we've seen already, Ryogi and Shikadai and their most recent meeting, and I suppose the reveal coming out. Shikadai figuring it out, and in a way tricking Ryogi into revealing that he is indeed part of the Byakuya gang. And what's said here, I think, is interesting. I didn't think all of the dialogue was interesting. I think there was a couple of lines where it just kind of felt like, okay, you're making it into a kind of big conversation, but there's only a couple of lines of dialogue here that I think actually have, like, meaning here. And I think the main takeaway from this would be that I think they're setting up a kind of character arc for Shikadai, in that Ryogi points out that, like, look, your motto seems to be that, you know, it's a drag. Why do this when, like, we can't do anything? We're just powerless with everything that... We're just one or two people alone, small groups. We're powerless to do anything of note, to actually make any sort of a change. So what's the point in even trying? It's such a drag. And he's kind of pointing out to him here that, like, look, you're a ninja. I'm a member of the Byakuya gang. You should be trying to, like, capture me or something like that, but you're not. Even that is showing how you're living by your motto, but you're using it as an excuse to never get involved in anything. Even when he's kind of, when Boruto earlier on in the episode asks Shikadai, like, do you agree with that or not? He kind of just says, yeah, as if, like, he doesn't really care about it. Just the idea that, like Shikamaru, I think, from earlier on in Naruto, he's not investing himself in anything, and so that's kind of bringing him down in a way as a ninja, because he's not focused as such on anything. And I find that very, very interesting, and I do wonder where exactly they're going to go, because I don't think they want to do Shikadai exactly like Shikamaru, but very clearly they're creating a similarity at a base level. So I'd like to see a little bit of Tamari also come out, but I think what they'll ultimately do is they'll just have Tamari. They'll have Shikadai actually, I think, make a move. Like, whatever happens in the next episode, whether it be him actively telling everyone about what happened, or stepping up to fight Ryogi in the end to kind of, you know, pick a side in what's going on here. That will, I suppose, be proof that Shikadai has developed as a character. But equally, I think Shikadai kind of pointing out that basically the idea of, you know, the Byakuya gang, you're almost just like pawns in someone's game, because you aren't actually, how small your group is, you're not actually able to, like, properly, you know, make a change. So aren't you just pawns in someone's game who's trying to affect change? And he didn't like that, and it obviously relates back to previous stuff in the episode, and the symbolism of what they're trying to do with the shogi games and so on. I'm wondering, will they do the whole, you know, what is the king, what does it mean to protect the king type thing here, and use that as a way for both Ryogi and Shikadai to develop? I'm not sure, but I think at the very least, this is, I think, meant to be our arc where Shikadai, I suppose, proves himself worthy, I suppose, of being the leader of his team, in the same way that Shikamaru was ultimately the leader of, you know, his team with Ino and his Ino Shikacho trio. That Shikadai is going to prove himself in the same way here, with Choji and Ino, and here with Chocho and Inojin. Sorry, I got the names so badly messed up there, but I think I got it out in the end. I feel that that's what they're probably going for, but I'm not entirely sure, obviously. Yeah, you know, as I said, I think it was an episode of like 2 or 3 important scenes, and the rest was just kind of like, okay, it's fine. Definitely a middle of the arc style episode, and I'm eager to see how long they make this arc, how many more episodes are left. They do mention also that the Byakuya gang are beginning to move on their major plan. They have been inactive for a while. They're going to actually make a move on their plan, and it seems like the plan, based on the preview, was one brought up by Ryogi, and it might reference the Kazusuke's ninja tools or something like that, but we'll have to wait and see. But that's my thoughts on the episode. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were, and yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye!